morning and a very warm welcome. You're watching the Breakfast Rundown on TV1. I'm Therunee Karunaratne. We're coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Today is a very special day for us Sri Lankans. It's been exactly 77 years since our motherland was declared independent from colonial rule. So on this very special day, we start off this morning's Breakfast Rundown with a glimpse into Sri Lanka's road to independence. In 1796, the British took control of Sri Lanka by employing a mercenary army called the Miron Regiment, which had previously served in the Dutch forces. Initially, the coastal regions of the country were brought under British control. In 1815, through an agreement strategically obtained with the help of Ahale Pula Nilame, the British managed to take control of the central highlands of Sri Lanka. The first major resistance by the people occurred during the Uva Velasi Rebellion in 1818. In 1848, the second rebellion for independence came about under the leadership of figures such as Gongale Godabanda and Veera Puran Appu. In 1917, the struggle for independence shifted from armed resistance to a political and social movement marked by the Ceylon National Congress and the efforts of Anagarika Dharmapala and the Sri Lanka Amadhyapa Mahasabha. And in 1948, Sri Lanka gained independence, becoming a united nation through the collective cooperation of all ethnic communities. And this year, Sri Lanka is set to celebrate its official National Independence Day this morning at the Independence Square in Colombo. The theme of this year's Independence Day is Let's Rally for a National Renaissance. The live broadcast for this year's National Independence Day is set to begin at 7:30 a.m. right here on TV1, so you can stay tuned with us for that. This year's Independence Day celebrations will be conducted with 1,873 Tri-Forces personnel, which is a 40% reduction in participation compared to last year. In comparison, 3,384 Tri-Forces personnel took part in last year's Independence Day event. This year's parade is also not going to consist of any armoured vehicles, while the number of aircraft used in the parade has been reduced to 3 in comparison to the 19 deployed last year. According to Sri Lanka Police, 1,650 personnel, including STF officers, have been assigned for security purposes and traffic management. DIG Indika Hapugoda says that the Bauda Lokamavata, Torrington Junction and Premakirthi Dialvis Mavata will be closed this morning. RSP Junction towards State Administration, Vidya Mavata at Vijayarama, Independence Roundabout and Maitland Crescent, Independence Avenue, Stanley Vijay Sundara Mavata, Library Roundabout towards Horton Roundabout, Foundation Junction to Independence Avenue will all be closed and traffic will be limited. No vehicle will be allowed to enter the vicinity of the Independence Square while the parade is ongoing. On occasion of Sri Lanka's 77th National Independence Day, President Anura Kumara Dissanayake stressed on the nation's collective hopes and aspirations for a new kind of freedom. Reflecting on Sri Lanka's rich history, President Dissanayake highlighted the government's commitment to rebuilding a thriving nation through the united efforts of the people from all regions, the North, East, West and South. In his message on the occasion of Sri Lanka's 77th National Independence Day, President Dissanayake called for elevating the nation to new heights for the sake of the future generations. He reminded citizens of the sacrifices made by historical heroes who fought with their blood and tears to achieve freedom. The president urged everyone to work both individually and collectively to build a modern, developed Sri Lankan nation guided by social, environmental as well as ethical principles. In his message, President Dissanayake noted that over the past 4 months, the new government has laid the foundation for a stable economy, introduced a new political culture and committed to a new political ideal. He outlined the government's vision for a society where people regard each other with equality, respect and empathy, free from racism as well as religious divisions. He also emphasized the importance of governance through public engagement and the rule of law, with a focus on eradicating rural poverty. The president also highlighted the government's efforts to ensure that no citizen, particularly the most vulnerable, is left behind. He said that steps have been taken to digitalize the economy and embrace advancements in science and technology. Additionally, he noted that the government is committed to transforming Sri Lanka's global image from a country known for corrupt governance to one that upholds an independent foreign policy and earns trust in international relations. Despite numerous obstacles and the deep-rooted flaws of the past corrupt political system, President Anurukumara Dissanayake expressed his confidence in the steady progress of the people's government. He affirmed that Sri Lanka has entered an era of national revival and called on all Sri Lankans to stand strong and united. The president invited citizens to participate in shaping a modern vision of freedom and contribute to the collective beginning of this new era of revival. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, in her message on Sri Lanka's 77th National Independence Day, said that independence is not just about sovereignty, it's about dignity, justice and the right to live life free from oppression. Reflecting on the journey, the Prime Minister noted that they recognize that true freedom comes from an inclusive and equitable society where every community, regardless of ethnicity, religion, caste, gender or class, has an equal stake in shaping the nation and also feels valued and respected. She said that the government's "A Thriving Nation, A Beautiful Life" is not just a vision, but also a call for action. She noted that it is a commitment to a Sri Lanka where democracy is deepened, where economic justice is prioritized, and where the voices of the marginalized are not just heard, but centered in decision-making. The Prime Minister stressed that it is a promise to build a country where every individual feels a sense of belonging and worth. She called on all Sri Lankans to go beyond symbolism and dedicate themselves to a meaningful change towards a Sri Lanka that truly belongs to all. Well, various overnight religious observances were held across the island in line with the 77th National Independence Day of Sri Lanka. An overnight Pirit sermon organised by the Gaul Kadawat Satara Divisional Secretariat was held early this morning. Also, another Dhamma sermon was held near the Kurunegala Lake, organised by the Kurunegala District Secretariat. Government is also all set to celebrate the 77 years of independence in the fabled Uva Velassa. The event is set to begin at 9 a.m. at the Hali Ala Public Grounds in Badulla. Let's move on to more local news now. 285 inmates detained at prisons across the island will be released today in view of the 77th Independence Day of Sri Lanka. Prison spokesperson Gamini B. Dissanayake says the 279 inmates are male. Meanwhile, visitors will be granted a special opportunity to visit prison inmates today. They will be permitted to take food and sanitation items sufficient for one inmate during this visit. Let's move on to news overseas for this morning. Our international news item comes in from the US. US President Donald Trump suspended his threat of steep tariffs on Mexico and Canada yesterday, agreeing to a 30-day pause in return for concessions on border and crime enforcement with the two neighboring countries. US tariffs on China are still due to take effect within hours. Both Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said they had agreed to bolster border enforcement efforts in response to Trump's demand to crack down on immigration and drug smuggling. Now, this would pause 25% tariffs due to take effect today for 30 days. Canada agreed to deploy new technology and personnel alongside its border with the United States and launch cooperative efforts to fight organized crime, drug smuggling as well as money laundering. Mexico agreed to reinforce its northern border with 10,000 National Guard members to stem the flow of illegal migration and drugs. No such deal has emerged for China, which faces across-the-board tariffs of 10% that are poised to begin today. A White House spokesperson said Trump would not be speaking with Chinese President Xi Jinping until later in the week. Trump warned that he might increase tariffs on Beijing further. Well, that brings to a close this morning's edition of the Breakfast Rundown on TV1. But do stay tuned to TV1 as the live broadcast of Sri Lanka's 77th National Independence Day is coming right up at 7:30 to be specific. Well, I'll see you once again on the Breakfast Rundown tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Until then, take care. Have a wonderful day ahead.